This is your foxy writer, Brandy Ackerley, coming to you with the next chapter in my Hunter's Gambit read-along. And by far the most important thing to talk about today is my novel. I'm about 27 pages away from having Fox's Facade ready to send out to my beta readers and editor. Fair warning to all of you though, my editor is really busy right now, improving herself actually by going for a degree, so I may not get the novel back for a few months. I have decided that the work she does for me, however, is worth the wait, since she was so much help the first time around. I am so very excited to send it out to her already! Oh, I have already identified 2 parts that I need to think of for fixes in my edits, but I can say that I've gotten some very encouraging feedback from one beta reader who started reading it a few weeks ago, so I am very excited! Oh, they're seeing mostly minor changes, so I'm hoping that aside from the 2 parts that I've already identified, that it will be a mostly clean edit. Either way, I will let you know as soon as I've gotten it back and have had time to look over their comments. Now, quickly before we move on to the recap, here's your reminder that if you're enjoying these videos, please hit that like button and share and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, last week, Richard and Kazunaha worked out their deal and learned more about each other. By the end of the meal they shared, they agreed to leave town in approximately 2 weeks' time. Richard, in particular, learned that any plan, including the phrase, impress Kazunaha with wealth, was likely to fail. Something that made him all the more determined to get to know her. And now, on with the story. Okay, and now I'm just going to get the book up here. There we go. That should be just about perfect. Kazunaha walked into the store, hardly able to contain her glee. A few things to buy, a few things to check about the shipwreck, and then they could be out. The longest part would probably be Richard's translating of the book. The man who had written it down had miserable handwriting. Kazunaha had considered herself a good hand at deciphering text, but this book was in Durrani and beyond her ability. First on her list of things to do was picking up supplies. Sleeping sack, utensils, cutlery, backpack, hardier clothing, suited for days spent in the wild rather than just hours. Tools, toiletries. She still felt embarrassed thinking about that last one. There were a few items that Richard had asked her to check on prices for as well. Pots, pans, foodstuffs, even a collapsible canoe. Items that they would both end up using and sharing the costs for. She paused outside her destination, watching as a few of the people loitering outside the front doors of Talvert's shop saw her, and shuffled away, the tallest one whispering while they moved out of earshot. "Kazunaha is the one that helped that foreigner!" Soon she wouldn't just be the one who helped the foreigner. She would be the one working with him. Would that make the comments easier to bear? Or harder? Not knowing the answer, she stepped into the shop. The scent of spices hit her like a bat to the face. She had the urge to claw the scent out of her nose. A sneeze would have given her relief. Instead, the intensity of the smell overwhelmed her. Her head throbbed in time to a bard in training. Just enough out of tempo to grate on already abused nerves. "Kazunaha, we don't often see you in here. What can I help you with?" Kazunaha shook her head. Talvert was a tall man, second in his line to carry his father's name, Eric. No one ever called him by it, though, since there had been 3 boys born within 2 years of each other with the same name. One had inevitably become Tall Eric, while the other became Dancing Eric, after he'd fallen on his nose and broken it trying to impress a girl at the fair. Talvert, having no identifying embarrassments or notorieties, simply became Talvert. "Just a few things to pick up. I thought you might have what I was looking for," she told him, looking around the store, waiting for the pounding in her head to subside. Kazunaha didn't often bother with coming to the general store herself, since the servants handled the weekly shopping and the rest. Still, even she could tell that the store hadn't changed much since Talvert had taken it over from his father. The shelves were overstocked, boxes and extra merchandise filled up every corner, and the shelves, laid across every wall, and more running perpendicular to the center of the room, were filled with a smorgasbord of brightly colored food and bric-a-brac. If we don't have it in stock, I'm sure we can order it in. His smile was genuine, and Kazunoha felt herself relax. What's your first item? She moved a finger to her lip. I think the first thing I'll need is a good bag. He nodded. Purse, backpack, or sack? Backpacks and sacks. Waterproof, preferably. Talbert pursed his lips and looked over to the northern wall. Nothing we have out right now would meet your standard. He knew her well enough to know that she was picky about quality. In exchange for her pickiness, she almost never haggled. She bit her lip at the anticipated delay, but Talbert held up a hand. I do have something in the back that might do. I was going to ship it back since the foreigner that ordered it left town before picking it up from me. It might work for you, though. Would you like to see it? Kusunoha tilted her head in a half bow. You have me intrigued. Yes, I'd like to see it. Check out what we have on the northern wall and let me know what you think of those. I'll grab the bag and meet you over there. He was right about the backpack selection. Most were made using a thin leather that stretched under her fingers, or a softly woven cotton. These were bags made for use in town, not out on the road. There was one bag made with a silk covering of a flower design. Pretty, but badly made. The stitches were already pulling at the fabric. She turned away in disgust as the bell over the main door rang. She turned and caught her breath as Deckard walked in. Like the bag, he was unimaginably pretty. Unlike the bag, he was well made, and still the most attractive man she'd ever known. His hair hung low on his shoulders, making him look like a deity come to ground. His physique was muscled, surprisingly so for a healer, and he stood at least a foot taller than her. She turned away, but not before she caught his frown at seeing her. Good afternoon. His words were for Talbert, not for her. Ah, Deckard, here to pick up your package? I have 2 items left to wrap. Why don't you go look and see if there's anything else you need? We've got a new type of bandage in with the last shipment I can add in. They're at the back by the bags. Deckard stepped near the back, picking up the bleached cloth in one hand. He squeezed it, and she wondered if he could tell their quality like she could silk, just by its feel. Kusunoha, picking up a new bag? He said, without looking at her. I've agreed to be Richard's guide, so I'll require one. At that, he did turn to look at her. You're going? Your sister didn't convince you it was foolish? Of course not, Deckard, she said. Realizing how that sounded, she tried again. He needs a guide, and... Why can't you just listen to your sister for once? Listen to her? And you? You've never listened to me. She winced and pushed her hair behind her ear. Deckard, this is hardly something to worry about. We won't even be going as far as Croptel. Most likely. Richard seemed certain that the boat had crashed somewhere nearby, no more than a week or two's journey walking. Deckard rubbed his forehead. This stranger arrived in town and within a week killed 4 men. Does that seem safe to you? Deckard, it was 3 men, and it wasn't his fault. The sheriff may not have liked having to count him innocent, but you couldn't arrest the man for being attacked in the city streets. Deckard closed his eyes. I'd forgotten. How are you doing? You haven't been by to see me. Have you at least spoken to one of the priests in town? Kusunoha didn't like remembering the man she killed. Didn't like talking about it at all. She'd seen his face in her dreams again last night. What she'd done had been necessary to save Richard's life. Still, it felt like even more of a wedge between them. Deckard healed for a living. She, apparently, destroyed men's lives, killing them when less direct ways, like simply ruining their lives by cheating on them, weren't available. I haven't. It was just 1 man, Deckard, and a stranger at that. I'll be fine. 1 or 10. I'd feel better if you'd talk to someone about it. He sighed. How did you manage to convince your sister to allow this anyway? Himiko doesn't get a choice. Kazunoha's mouth curled upwards towards her nose. It's my choice. My decision, Deckard. She doesn't get a say. Kazunoha! Deckard took a step towards her, and she recoiled. Deckard, I have your package ready. Would you like any of those bandages as well? Talbot asked from the front of the store. Neither of them moved. You have to talk to Himiko before you do this. Kazunoha looked away. What was she supposed to say? That Himiko had forbidden it? Or at least that she didn't care? He would know all of that already. There had been a time when he'd known her best. Or she thought he had. She gestured towards Talbot. Your package is ready, Deckard, she said. He regarded her a moment longer, and then turned to the shopkeeper. Thank you, Talbot. I've decided to take your supply of the new bandage type here, if that's all right. Let me bring them to you. Kazunoha sighed. It took nearly 5 minutes for Deckard to finish his business and leave. He didn't look at her again. Talbot approached her, carrying a black and red bundle. He seemed tense. Isn't he always? She asked. Everyone in town knew that they'd been together. Nowadays, she was simply an old inconvenience to him. He gave a light smile. You said you were going somewhere? Kazunoha shook her head. I've got a job as guide. A couple of weeks on the road, right around Hidan. Huh. That's usually hunter's work, he said cautiously. She shrugged. Richard wanted to get to know me after I saved his life. The area right around Hidan is safe enough that we shouldn't be in any real danger. Talbot put out a hand. Richard? You mean the stranger? Is he well enough for that sort of exertion already? She blew out a breath. Hardly. It'll be at least another week. We're studying the places he wants to go while he's here in the meantime. Well, say no more. Talbot put the bag on the counter, moving a clump of buckles out of the way. This is the best that we have in stock. I assume you'll want something that will stand up to the elements. It wasn't actually black and red, but had a color like fall leaves, oranges, reds, and deep browns. It was softer than some of her outfits, but it looked strong, made of some type of leather that she didn't recognize. Good bison leather, silk thread, reinforced with more bison leather ties, he told her, when she asked. We give you a thin spool of both to make repairs if needed, though you'll have to put it through more than the regular paces. Bison hide is strong. Its inner covering is silk from your family's own warehouses. It comes with a water-resistant pouch for your clothes, and ties together at the top to keep most water from getting in. It has a multitude of pockets, and comes with this matching belt pouch to keep smaller items closer to hand. Finally, the straps go over your shoulders, and have these 2 additional ties. They come across your chest and stomach to distribute all the weight. It will make carrying up to 60 pounds of equipment feel like feathers. Nice. How much? It sells for 10 silvers. She winced inwardly. She had it, but that was hardly the point. Every other bag on the wall would have gone for maybe 10 coppers? Except perhaps that silk bag. That one he might try to get 2 or 3 silvers for. Sell me on it. He smiled and coughed into his hand. She smiled, remembering her father telling her that it was one of his tells. Be wary, but read through the tell, and you'll be able to tell just how much he's exaggerating. You're paying for the high quality. Bison hide is much stronger than cow, and you know how much stronger good silk is compared to cotton. His breathing was even enough, just a little bit of excitement. He'd stuck out his chest, showing pride in his work. Waterproof? She asked. It's been waxed, and I'll include an extra stick for you to repair on the go. It won't help if you're submerged, but it should be fine for most rain. Kazunoha shuddered. Every couple of years they would get a storm off the ocean that would soak you so fast you may as well have been submerged if you stepped outside. He winced, probably remembering those storms as well. I'll be honest, miss. I don't have anything that will help if you're getting that wet. Well, shouldn't be a problem during this season. Do you have some of the sealable bison bags that I could pick up for it? Double protection, huh? I don't have any right now, but I can see about ordering some in. It may take up to 3 weeks. They cost 1 silver soul each. Will that be okay? Expensive as well, but they were going after a ship. If she wanted the best protection, she would need to pay for it somewhere along the way. Please, I have a few other items to pick up as well. You may need to order them too, so I'd rather get it all in at once if I can. Eric nodded, smiling, and took her bag up to the front to start wrapping it up. Not a problem at all. What's next on your list? All right, and that was it. Okay, let me just put the book away here. Perfect. Oh, this chapter was a fun one to write, but it was also a bit of a relaxing chapter. It's all about expanding the world, and most especially Kazunoha and Deckard's relationship. Honestly, I really enjoy chapters like this. For me, they're fun because they're a slice of life, and very relatable relationship-wise. I think we all have family or friends that push a bit too hard to protect us, and having to push them away so that we can grow can be really hard on everyone. And that's what Kazunoha is going through here. Well, okay, that and she killed a man. While that's clearly bothering her, she's also determined to be strong and say that she doesn't need help. For Kazunoha, it's one of her weaknesses, one of her flaws, that she never wants to accept help. Personally, I always suggest finding someone you can talk to when you're having troubles. Whether that's a good friend, a trusted clergy member, or even better, a therapist. Having that support structure will help you out a lot more than you think. Okay? And that's where we're going to end it for this week, okay? Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you guys next week for our next episode. Bye!